Hi everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. It's that time of the month again, guys. New HYDRA rotation has come out. I don't know. I think it's 6. I kind of forgot. I think it's 6. Anyway, the new HYDRA rotation is out, and what I'm going to be doing in today's video is showing you several epic only teams that can take on this rotation of the HYDRA. So I'll put together like a really good team first of all, and then after that I'll also be suggesting replacement champions. In fact, probably the whole way through I'll be suggesting certain alternatives that you can bring in to help combat this HYDRA instead. Good news is this rotation looks to be really easy. From my initial testing, this is significantly easier than the previous 2 rotations we've had. So if you've been struggling a lot in HYDRA the last couple of months, you're probably going to find it's looking a lot better if you have some of these key champions. Especially these first 2 champions I'm going to talk about are complete game changers for this rotation of HYDRA. The good news is they can work even at level 50, which is hilarious. They can do their job at 50. But yeah, if you got these champions, you're good. If you don't, it's going to be a lot trickier. What are we up against, first of all, as well? Head of Decay, so he's the one that cleanses. We've got the Head of Mischief. He's the one that steals your turn meter and your buffs and spreads them around. Head of Torment, the one that true fears. And Head of Wrath, the one that hits you really hard. So basically, I'd say that the 3 core things we want to do to deal with this: Head of Decay, there's no counterplay to this head at all. It just forces you to play on manual. That's literally the entire head. Head of Mischief, we're going to be bringing in block buffs. You can use resistance tanks to deal with Head of Mischief. I will be talking about that. Probably not even needed in my hard video. I'll do a 1-key hard video as well. But looking towards Nightmare HYDRA, you're going to want a resistance tank. Not really worth it on normal. He's got 250 accuracy on normal. So to consistently resist his buff steal and his turn meter steal, you need over 350 resistance, which is a lot. If you get decreased accuracy on him, that becomes more doable. You bring his accuracy to 125, so like, you know, 225, 230 resistance is going to be absolutely plenty at that point. So that becomes much more doable. You might actually be able to do that. But for our purposes here, we're just going to bring block buffs. Just put block buffs on him on the other heads to limit the amount of buff stealing. We'll just have to deal with the buffs being removed and the turn meter steal. Head of Torment, placing True Fears. You need something to deal with the True Fears. And then for Head of Wrath, we really want to have some way to take or prevent him getting decreased attack, either remove it or prevent him getting it. And we want to put decreased attack on him. And that's really it. Let's dive into the team. And this is the first team I put together, and I'm really happy with this one. So the first champion, the most important champion, is Inquisitor Shamael. He is probably the best champion, in fact, in the entire game for this whole rotation of HYDRA because of Head of Torment. What does Shamael do? Well, the main thing he does is his passive. Whenever an ally receives a fear or true fear debuff from an enemy, he removes the debuff and fills the ally's turn meter by 15%. That is a lie. What he actually does, he fills the turn meter of whoever is in the lead position. Whoever is in the leader slot is going to get their turn meter filled by Shamael, not the ally who he removes the debuff from. So basically, Head of Torment turns Shamael, or Shamael turns the Head of Torment into a turn meter battery for your leader, which is completely overpowered. He also does a couple other nice things. His A1 can decrease the duration of random buffs on the enemy, and he also counterattacks with this whenever an enemy places a debuff on your team. This is pretty awesome, right? So this gives us a bit of buff removal. He can strip off the increased attack. He can strip off some stolen buffs. That's pretty cool. And then his A2 absolutely slams, ignores tons of defense, ignores 100% defense if he has 3 buffs. So this is a massive single target nuke that can help us to break champions free and just do really good damage. Now the champion we want to combo with him, probably no surprise here either. These 2 guys together are going to be absolutely nuts. Geomancer, who conveniently does have an aura that we can use, which is a nice bonus, but 25% ally HP in all battles. He comes in. What is he doing? First of all, he's reducing all the damage we receive and deflecting it onto every enemy that he has put a HP burn on. He HP burns with his A3. He actually has an AoE hit with his A1 that can put decreased accuracy. So there's your decreased accuracy for Mischief. And then his A2 gives you buff removal, so you can use him to remove the increased attack from Wrath as well. So Geomancer's doing tons of stuff. The idea here is very simple. Shamael just, you know, especially with Geomancer just spamming his A1 a lot, doing AoE hits. The AoE hits hit Head of Torment, but don't do too much damage. That's good. Shamael then boosts Geomancer's turn meter a lot. Basically, Geomancer's going to get so many turns. He's going to get his burn up on multiple heads at once. which is going to mean that when Wrath starts smacking us, he's going to just deflect insane damage back at these heads. The two of them together is plenty of damage, honestly, to one key normal. It's absolutely nuts. So these are your two core champions. I'll show you the alternatives in a minute. Let me just build out this team first. The other key thing we need, again, we need block buffs as well, really, for Head of Mischief. So we're going to bring in Ugo. No real surprise there. She's in nearly every Hydra rotation. Ugo is so good. She's going to give us AoE decreased defense with AoE block buffs. She also gives us a big heal. She can also place Leech so we can heal up. So Ugo is going to be fantastic. You can bring in, though, really any other block buff champion is going to work, but I would be bringing in block buffs. Now, to build onto this, the other two things, in fact, let me put it like this so it's a bit clearer. The other two things we really want to bring in are increased speed, decreased speed. I'm going to bring it in with Golden Reaper and Tanix Hate Flower. Two champions people think are really bad, but are actually insanely good for Hydra. So Golden Reaper, she's our speed booster. Increased speed and 20% turn meter on a 3-turn cooldown. That's great. More than that, though, she has an AoE attack with a 75% chance to put decreased attack. Fantastic. That's going to give us a consistent source of decreased attack on Head of Wrath. The fact that it's not 100% doesn't really bother us either. We don't care too much about decreased attack on the other heads. We can miss it here or there, but it's just nice to have it sometimes, right? So it actually works just fine. And then she has a great A1 where she attacks an enemy, and when it's booked up, 50% chance to decrease the cooldown of a random ally skills by 1 turn. This is awesome, right? We reduce Shamael's massive single target nuke or Geomancer's burn. Ugo's block buffs. You know, there's lots of abilities we can decrease here. That's really helpful to us. We're going to bring in Tanix Hate Flower then. She's going to give us some damage reduction, which is nice. She's going to be doing decreased speed. If she crits with this, it's an AoE decreased speed. So you can have her be an AoE decreased speed for the enemy team. And then her A1, she's going to be pumping out some healing as well, right? So simple enough. She's giving us some damage reduction, decreased speed, and a nice chunk of healing as well. So between the two of them, honestly, you probably have enough healing, considering you're getting damage reduction from Tanix, you're getting damage reduction from Geomancer. You're probably good. For safety's sake, I'm going to bring in Ursula the Mourner here, but you could bring in maybe even another damage champion. You could bring in really any reviver, either. If you're stuck, if you're getting smacked around, you could bring in a healer, bring in a reviver. It's pretty flexible. Ursula gives us another AoE decrease attack. She gives us increase attack as well, which is just going to up our damage. She has an AoE revive with increased defense and strengthen. So she's just going to be protecting our team and making us stay alive. So if we jump over, I have this sped up. Here's some quick footage. In fact, let's speed it up even more. Here's some quick footage of us going through. And what you're going to be seeing here as we go through, at the start, it's a little bit slow to get started, but you'll see once we get going, we're really going to get going. One thing to note, I was testing out my Tanix Hate Flower in a Guardian set as well. You'll see she actually gets really beat up by the ally protection of her passive skill and Guardian set. So depending on your gear, and I will show you the gear on these champions, you can see how hard she's getting hit when we get hit by Wrath with increased attack, yeah? So it might be something just to be aware of. Not really, it doesn't really matter on normal, but when we get onto hard, it's going to matter a little bit more. So that's something to watch. Now, basically what we're going to be doing here with this particular team, especially this Geomancer plus Shamael combo, what we're going to be trying to do, and this is pretty important, is we don't really want to directly attack Head of Torment if we can help it. It's okay with like your support champions that aren't going to do any damage, but any of our damage dealers, we want to really avoid Head of Torment. We want to keep Head of Torment alive as long as possible. Same thing with Head of Wrath. We're really not in a rush to kill Head of Wrath. So you can see with Geomancer, I put the burns on Mischief, I put the burns on Decay, and I'm really not too worried about Wrath or Torment. They're great. The more Wrath and Torment we have, the better. The more Wrath and Torment we have, the better. But killing Decay is definitely something I want to do. And you can see right here, Ugo heals us up, stabilizes us after that. So you can see that, Head of Wrath, when he does get that increased attack, he can be pretty scary. So that's definitely something to watch out for, right? To put it to you like this, right? If he's got 100% attack baseline, if he gives himself increased attack and he smacks you, that's 50% more damage. He's hitting you for 150% damage. If you remove his increased attack and you put decreased attack on, he's going to be hitting you for 50% damage. So 50% damage with decreased attack compared to 150% damage with increased attack. He's going to do 3 times as much damage if you don't bring stuff to control him and control his damage output. That's how big of a difference this makes. But you can see here as well just how many turns Geomancer is getting, and look at that reflected damage when Head of Wrath starts popping up. Number one, we're very tanky thanks to Geomancer's passive. Tanix passive helping as well. You can see here, I actually reapplied the burn early onto Head of Mischief. I'm not putting it on Head of Torment. I just don't want to kill Head of Torment. It's not something I want to do. At this point, it goes a bit crazy because once we kill Mischief, the turn meter gets depleted. Decay is dead now as well. And yeah, at this point, we're just going to be slamming damage in, right? It's very easy to kill these heads off. No one has been, in fact, you can see Inquisitor Shamael, no one's been eaten. He actually has one turn left on his Devour timer. So he's doing totally fine. And we're just going to be slamming this damage out. One thing I do have with Shamael, I'm going to show you their builds. Shamael is built with Giant Slayer with this, which I actually am thinking is probably going to be a bad idea. Basically, Shamael, he counterattacks so much, yeah? With War Master, he can proc one tick of War Master on all of those counterattacks. With Giant Slayer, every single counterattack has a chance to proc Giant Slayer. So it actually adds up to a ton more damage in Hydra, Giant Slayer. But it's actually kind of bad, right? Because it kills Head of Torment really quickly, which we don't necessarily want. But here you go. You can see we're just over 5 minutes in, and we have decapitated every single head. Shamael, he's hitting some pretty good damage. In fact, he sat at 0 on the Devour timer, which is very funny. Basically, that happens when you're queued up, right? That the Hydra head is due to eat you, but they have like their AI as higher priority on one of their moves compared to that. But there you go, guys. Look at that. Bam. 7 minutes in or so. 1 key on normal. Absolutely no problem. No one has even been eaten. Really very little danger to our team and all the rest. Let me show you their particular builds, and then let me talk about some alternatives, because I know people are saying I don't have those champions. These are the builds. I have them in right now, and you can see it's more than enough. Shamael's in a fairly random build. I recommend for Hydra generally, you probably want over 40k health, and you probably want over 2000 defense, even on your damage dealers. You don't want them to be super squishy. They're just going to die. He's very average, very average. Pretty much everywhere. 200 speed is a good thing to aim for. He's very average. His masteries, like I said, Giant Slayer, I actually think is not worth it, but I would generally go sort of this sort of way is fine. But I would actually, instead of going this way, I'd probably get him Methodical, and I get him War Master. I think War Master is going to be good. I think Giant Slayer actually does too much damage. It does more damage than you want. So yeah, that's how I have him built. But I'm going to be coming back to Shamael. This is the Shamael I had from ages ago. I'm going to be re-gearing him and giving you updates as we go. Ursula is in here too. She's in regen set, and she's just built to be tanky. She's only moderately fast. And again, just very all-around stats. She's not doing anything too incredible here. I guess one nice thing, her resist is kind of low for Hydra. Again, you really prefer to have it up like 500 for Nightmare. But for the purposes of normal, it's still a bit too low. But if we land decrease accuracy, she is going to start resisting mischief with decrease accuracy on him. So at least there's that. But you can sort of tweak these builds as you want. Her masteries, War Master, extended buffs. That's really what she is doing. Fairly straightforward stuff. Next up then we had Golden Reaper. She's not fully mastered yet, but again, pretty straightforward. I'm going to be extending her debuffs for more decreased attack. I'm going to be getting her War Master for more damage, and that's basically it. She's actually very quick right now, so she's pretty tanky. She's very fast. Doesn't need to be that fast, just whatever you have. I basically have her in some swift parry gear that I'm rolling up potentially for Arbiter. So a lot of level 12 gear even. She's a work in progress, but you can see it's totally fine. For normal, it's absolutely more than enough. She's probably totally fine for hard and worse. You know, she's fine. Then, whoop, it's shot us back to the top of the list right there. Okay. Next up, we had Tanix. So I've actually, like I said, switched Tanix into Guardian set. This is a little bit dodgy. I don't know if you necessarily need that. You can basically put her in whatever, right? You can put her in whatever. You need her to have 100% crit rate, so she lands AoE decreased speed. You'd want her to be fast, have high HP, enough accuracy. So this build is kind of questionable. I'm not a big fan, to be honest. I might switch her out of this. Just Perception is good. Retaliation is fine if you got plenty of stats. I'd probably just build her in Perception and build her like high resistance, just generally just pump up her stats, and she's going to be good. With her masteries, War Master, extended debuffs. And then finally we had Geomancer. I don't remember which one I sent in. They're almost the same. A couple of them are slightly different. It doesn't really matter. I've got one of them anyway. He's in Deflection. I think this is the one I sent in. So he's just tanky. He's fast, plenty of stuff. The other one is the one I built after that, who's in reflex, so he's less tanky, a bit slower, but he has more resistance and accuracy. I think this is a better build overall with reflex, though again with Shamail, it's not even that crazy important. And then finally Ugo. Ugo's another good one to put in Guardian, good candidate. She's just in Perception right now. Very standard build. I haven't changed it in forever. This could do with an update, but again, you just build her tanky and fast, enough accuracy, and she'll do her job just fine for normal. War Master, extended debuffs. Pretty standard stuff right there, guys. So let's look at some other potential teams here. What I did was I did up some potential options. So this is the team down here that we ended up using. Here are some other options, some other things to bring in, some suggestions. So Rector Drath, right? Rector Drath instead of Inquisitor Shamail. If you don't have Shamail, you need some way to deal with the poison, not the poison cloud, with the True Fears. That's difficult. Rector Drath is probably your best option. She comes in, she has on a 4-turn cooldown Perfect Veil for 2 turns. So be looking at Rector Drath, something along those lines. You could bring in like a Tatura Rhymehide if you have Tatura from the Christmas fusion. Tatura is a good option. I would just say be careful of Wings of Shelter. You might even want to have him not use this, because if block debuffs get stolen, you can be in a really tough time. But he does have Perfect Veil for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. But basically, I'll be bringing in something to deal with that. Now, if you don't have anyone that can do that, some sort of cleanser could be good. I would suggest for the epics. I haven't built mine out yet, but a Doom Priest would be excellent, right? Doom Priest, every time she takes a turn, she removes a random debuff. So have her running fast, maybe even in Relentless gear, but just a really fast Doom Priest who can keep cleansing off those fears. So something to deal with it. I'm saying Rector Drath is a pretty good option. I've got Deacon Armstrong in as a good example, right, of just AoE decreased defense and giving you some speed boost. He's going to be a great one. A block buff champion, right? Block buffs with Umbral Enchantress. She's in some ways better because she's Void, places it for 3 turns on the 3-turn cooldown. So we really want that block buff champion. Someone like Sylar then is very good for decreased speed. Sylar has AoE decreased speed and AoE decreased accuracy. So again, making it easier that, like, okay, not many of these champions have resistance, but when you bear in mind, if we put decreased accuracy on the Head of Mischief, we only need about 230 resistance to really consistently resist him. Rector Drath's passive gives you an extra 50 resistance. So it's not too bad. It becomes more doable to build some of these supports with enough resistance that it doesn't matter. Not something to worry too much about on normal, but just so you guys are aware of it. Then we have Apothecary. Mine's only level 50, so he's too squishy, right? I wouldn't bring him in. Again, for me, I might just take out Apothecary. I think Apothecary is good because it gives you some healing as well, which is nice. Seeing as my Apothecary is really squishy, I could bring in like my Haikatoon. She also gives you a potential speed aura. She's tankier. Someone to just give us some speed boosting us up. And then someone like Royal Guard for damage in the end. You could also bring in someone like Magnar, something like that. It's sort of up to you. In fact, on this team, probably Magnar would be better. Here's a quick little tip, right? With or without Shamail. So when you do have Inquisitor Shamail, because we don't want to kill Torment, basically the way to look at it is ignore Torment. In fact, we don't want Green Affinity in some ways to fight Torment. We want to keep him alive as long as we can. We've got one of each other affinity, so you're pretty broadly able to bring in whatever you want. I think Magic is going to be really good. Magic Affinity is going to weak hit Torment, which is great. Magic Affinity is going to strong or neutral hit everything else that can come in. And it's going to be bad against Head of Wrath, so you just need to be careful of your Royal Guards and stuff like that. That Wrath could crit them and do a lot of damage. That is scary. But again, we don't care too much about killing Wrath. We're fine keeping Torment and Wrath alive if we have Inquisitor Shamail Geomancer. So that's where Magic Affinity damage dealers become very good, in my opinion. So that's just something to watch out for. In this sort of team where we are relying on Perfect Veil, we kind of want to get rid of Torment as quick as we can. That's where Magnar, like a Spirit Affinity damage dealer, actually becomes very nice. And again, I also threw up here some legendaries that you obviously can easily get. Well, maybe not easily with Lydia, and the others just take time. Well, I guess Lydia in a lot of ways just takes time as well, but it is harder. But some legendaries you can sub in, right? So Yannicka, great option for a damage dealer, Spirit Affinity damage dealer. Her A1 is an AoE. She's going to blitz on through. She does give herself Veil. I will say one thing, watch out. Ninja, also very good, right? If you got Ninja, Ninja's fantastic. In fact, Ninja would actually be better than Drexthar, yeah, for this rotation. One thing to watch out for, because they give themselves Veil, that's an extra buff, right? And that means that they will be targeted more by Head of Mischief. Head of Mischief targets whoever has the most buffs. So if you're bringing in a damage dealer that perfect veils themselves, I try to bring in a Rector Wrath or some other source of perfect veil if you can, because you'll actually be really screwed if Head of Mischief keeps attacking your damage dealer, because you're not gonna have any resistance on your damage dealers. All their buffs are gonna be stolen. Their turn meter is gonna be pushed back, and they won't have increased attack. It's gonna keep being stolen. They're not gonna have increased speed. Their damage is gonna go way down. So that is just something to watch out for, right? Anyway, Yannicka or Ninja, fantastic damage, but I would bring in a Veil champion like Rector Drath with them if possible. Vizix for AoE decreased speed is good. She does ally protection as well, so you need to bring a Reviver with her. She's probably gonna die. Lydia obviously is top tier, probably best increased speed champion. Mashald also would be insane, but I mean, I don't have a Mashald. Mashald or Lady Kimmy would be really good too. If you want someone to just heal, like Seal of the Drakes would be great. So for example, if you don't have Ursula in my team I was showing you today, stick in Seal of the Drakes, you're good, or stick in Arbiter and you're good as well. Arbiter is also going to be really good in this rotation. So lots of good options here, guys. Tons of good options. But yeah, again, even if you have Shamail and Geomancer at level 50, guys, just build them tanky. Just build them tanky. And that's it. That's really all you need to do. Like, Shamail just needs to do his passive. Geomancer just needs accuracy to land his burns. You put them together like that, and they're going to rip through. You're going to have a great time. So, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hope it was helpful. Some tips there. Let me know if you've got any team comps you've been using yourself. You know, if you're a mid-game player, perhaps, that could be very helpful to other mid-game players like you that are struggling on normal and hard. I will be back with the 1-key hard team. As you can see, it should be very, very doable this week. And I'll also probably come back with some... I'm going to be really diving into Nightmare big time here as well this rotation. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, some of those teams are going to be Legendary focus and all the rest. But yeah, there you go. We'll talk about that more in the next video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, all the rest. You can consider joining the channel as well if you want to support directly. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.